We talk a lot about coastal and sea level rise issues as important to really the origin of our work. But I think Palm Beach County, and it's the largest county in land area, I believe, east of the Mississippi. So there's plenty of room for a lot of non-coastal activities. And maybe you could talk to us about other water issues that the county deals with, the Everglades issues, the agriculture issues, things like that.
Funny you should mention that. On yesterday, we invited the Colonel Kelly from Army Corps of Engineers to come in and give a briefing to our board. He was very gracious and provided that briefing to us, dealing specifically with Lake Okeechobee. Our board was very concerned about the water quality coming into the lake as well as coming out of the lake, and how do we work together to cleanse it? Because the water coming out of the lake is a resource for a number of our municipalities. It's a drinking water that needs to be filtered and then put into storage areas for drinking water. In addition to that, some of that water also helps with the Everglades. And so the major concern was the lake level and how low the lake had been drawn down, which was a major concern in case of a drought. And unfortunately, we had the worst drought in September than we've ever had. And so that was a scary factor to say, you know, what's going on, how low are you gonna really go with the lake? But of course, the colonel said, you know, periodically we must lower the water in order for the lake to become healthy and be able to provide the cleansing that needs to occur with the water. So plus the fact that you have to keep enough water in the lake to help resolve with the saltwater intrusion, even though it's not necessarily right on, you know, the coastal area, but that salt intrusion can come in if we don't maintain a certain level within the lake. So a number of those issues were addressed. At that particular lake, along with other waters flowing, has an impact on the entire region, not just Palm Beach County, not just our agricultural area. Palm Beach County is fifth in the nation when it comes to agricultural production. So we've got hundreds of thousands of acres in which we must ensure that we've got proper water so that we can grow the foods that's needed here in the U.S. So we've got a number of issues that we're constantly addressing, and as the title said, the theme of the summit is bridging the gap, because between providing drinking quality water and quality water to help with agriculture, also we work very closely with Broward County and working so that we can utilize some of their disposable water, so that we can also work with our golf courses, so that we don't have to use potable water for that purpose. And so we're going to continue. There is legislation that we are following closely and also doing some analysis that may make it cost prohibitive for us to continue with the water use. We've got areas in our community that is very low lying, and so we also have to address some of the flooding issues, and that's the stormwater issue in certain basins within our county. So we've got a number of issues that we're trying to address. The algae bloom, which is a major factor, it impacts a number of counties. So we're trying to work with the Army Corps of Engineers to ensure that we have adequate water, quality water, but yet not harm our neighbors around us.
I think a lot of us are working with the Corps of Engineers these days, and I think they're going to be in the House later on the panel. I hope. So, and we're coming your way next year, so be ready.
We are so ready.
Number 12.
Yeah.
I'll let Megan, you know.
Megan's already excited about it, and so is Patrick. So
We're coming. No hurricanes.
No hurry.
All right. So, Bertha, welcome. A couple years ago in Fort Lauderdale at the Broward Convention Center, we had a real, one of the most important events I think we've experienced in bringing our economic partners together and signing a compact around that issue. And I know that in the House, we have representatives of Palm Beach, Greater Chamber, and Fort Lauderdale Greater Chamber. So they're here. They're not just coming to the main event. Okay. So why don't you go some more and talk about this issue?
No, I just wanted to say, if you want to talk about if it's working and how it's working, just look around. When I walked in first thing this morning, who did I see? I saw our business community. Our business community is here. They have been here. They have been wherever we are making this pitch to sort of wake up our state. I think it's all happening, and it's really pleasant to see. So they're not only talking the talk, they're walking the walk. You mentioned a study that is underway. It was a public-private partnership. We've come together to figure out how do we make that business case to the business community about climate and resiliency. And it's really important to talk their language. And we figured out that if you're going to have a dialogue about what's important to them and how what is happening will affect them. And right now, I think it's getting a little bit easier because as our situation worsens around the world, and not just in our region, but as you look around the world and the country is forced to deal with climate, it's getting a little bit easier to do, but thank goodness our business community stepped up and said, you know what, we're gonna be a major participant in this conversation. And so they didn't just leave it amongst themselves. Our chamber, along with many others, our workshop and our alliance, when they make their annual summit or trek to Washington, D.C. to talk about their top priorities. 10 years ago, you probably wouldn't have seen resiliency on the list. But guess what? It's one of the top 5. And it's one of the top 5 because they have listened and they have understood and they have been a real participant in making this conversation really easy to have. Think about it. We're talking about climate change and resiliency in Tallahassee. And you know what? That didn't happen just because a few bureaucrats, and I wear that title very proudly, were able to, hammer this and hammer this. It was because the business community said, hold up, wait a minute. What's going on with our insurance rates around here? And what's going on, and why aren't we, Water Management District, why aren't we starting to really look at how resilient we are? We invested in technology many moons ago, and it's still the technology that we expect to pull us out of something today, and it's not going to do that. So having the business community be a voice with the public sector, I think has been very fruitful. And lastly and not least, you all know, if you get your children excited about these issues,
Yes,
the parents must follow. We don't have a choice. They will embarrass you if you're doing the right thing, whether you want to be there or not. So we find ourselves in Broward, Meshuggah, and other counties. We're having our second youth summit with over 1,000 students, and this is very much promoted and helped by the school district. And the school district had their little push by the business community. So it's been a very fruitful partnership. They are leading, and it's just exciting to see that.
Thank you. So Jack, from our county in the north, my boss, thanks for coming. You've had a lot of experience regionally and in Tallahassee. I know. And we'd like to hear your ideas. Having served Governor Graham in Tallahassee and worked in Broward County, worked now in Monroe County, worked in the private sector. What's the future look like for regional collaboration, and how can we take advantage of that as we go forward into the next decade of this work?
You know, it was a fascinating process in the early 1970s when the HUD decided, because of some moves in Washington, to put together a regional planning council. And those of us that were just getting out of graduate school, and I had come to work at the South Florida Regional Planning Council that really didn't exist. And we put together work programs, and we went back and forth to Atlanta, and we put in money every year in the work program, and we got funds, and they worked hard nationally to create regional planning councils because there was a growing sense that no problems could be resolved by one city or one county. Even places like New York, which has a regional plan association, realized that it had gotten larger than the city. So HUD had a lot to do with it. They had a lot to put regional planning councils in place and funded them for, 10 years, I think. What's the purpose of that? The purpose of that is that this organization that you're sitting in was not put together by a federal agency, was not put together across the United States, was not put together by people in Washington telling us what we needed to do and how to put together a work program. It was put together by a group of very smart, very capable policy planning scientists who put together this compact with nobody's help but their own. And it was some money that was provided that they worked with and got some funds to get things going. And 10, 11, 12 years ago, this organization was put together. And probably was one of its only type in the United States. Not that North Dakota needed to worry about climate change. But there was clearly a need here that was shown to local government, elected officials, and put together this compact, which has been a great success. And if you juxtapose that to what happened in the early 1970s, you can see what happens when smart people see the need to come up with some tough decisions. Is it different? Yeah, it's significantly different. What happened at the Regional Planning Council level was that in Florida, we went through the whole growth management process. It was, again, from the state down. We worked that process until 3 or 4 or 5 years ago when it went away. This organization every year gets stronger, gets more successful in making sure that things change. To the point that, and I'll talk mostly about Miami-Dade County. 3 years ago, the budget for the county was predicated, the front of the budget was predicated on resilience. For the budget director to realize that the thing that was going to drive the change necessary to make the county take a step was to say that not just climate change, not just the traditional stuff, but every element of the county's budget was tied to resilience. It really was one that county commission kind of batted their eyes, and they got a big smile out of it. It has become a given every year. That wasn't just 1 year that we did that. It's been the basis for every element and every area in the budget. It's got a mark by it to tell you how it's dealing with resilience. To the point that we've been working with the responsibility to try to take what we're doing here and practice on ourselves, so that the capital planning process is one that's predicated on resilience. The environmental services activities going on is predicated on resilience. And I'm real proud of the work that they've done. I'd like to take the credit for it, but that didn't work. No matter how long we've been in this town. But it's been a great time. We're very proud of the work that they've done. And the mayor's term is coming to an end. And we think that it is now, so much a part of what needs to happen here, that it will go on and on. I gotta thank everybody that was part of that process, the 4 counties that got together, that sold it from the ground up, not from Washington down. And it was, I think, the best experience that I've seen like that.
Thank you, Jen. And I want to say that our regional planning council, both South Florida and Isabel Cavario, who see us here, and Treasure Coast continue to be strong players and partners in the work of the compact. So Roman, in addition to those periodic rain events and high tides, you had a visit from Irma. So I know you were ground zero. They call Southeast Florida ground zero for lots of things, but the Keys was ground zero for Irma, and you've been dealing with it ever since. Tell us about where you are.
Well, first of all, we're surrounded here with a lot of consultants and engineers that are here. These folks know what they're doing. They're very professional, they know what they're doing, and what they design works. That was the first lesson. Right after Irma, we went up on a helicopter and we saw the devastation. And it was clear that the new building codes work. We could see a house that was just built with the new codes, and then the rest of the homes around it was destroyed. So the new building codes definitely work. For the first 8-9 years of my job here, consultants, builders, developers were complaining about the building code. Now they saw it for themselves. I haven't heard a peep the last 2 years. They get it. It works. So they understand it, they see it, and it's becoming less the gap between the two, or a lot less. I'll give you an example of that. The complex where I live up in Islamorada, we were negotiating and putting in new metal roofs right before the storm, and it was about 30% more. Now we just putting them in now, the gap is down to 12%. So for 12% more, it just makes sense to go with the metal roofs, so we went with the metal roofs. That's happening. Those things are going to continue to happen. Then as far as our road elevation and what we're doing is, we're going to take a technical and a policy approach. Some roads might not meet that cost-benefit analysis. If it's going to cost $10, $12, $15 million per mile to get to 3 or 4 homes, maybe we don't do that. Maybe we buy the homes out. My bosses, the mayor and the commissioners are here. They got some tough decisions to make coming up, because policy-wise, how do you tell somebody we're not going to build the road to get to your home? And what do? Do we buy them out? And how do we buy them out? Is it voluntary? Is it, what eminent domain? How are we going to do that? So it's going to be very important to have a lot of stakeholder input and work with the folks, work with you all, work with the community. It's going to be managing the expectations. We can't just raise the whole Keys. There's some areas that just doesn't make sense, and that's going to be really interesting conversations. And I think you'll hear more about that later on this afternoon.
Roman, I wonder if you could just say a few words about this new program the state's got all this looking at, and that's this buying out homes. We've all been in the business over the years of buying land to protect it for habitat and other things. All of a sudden, there's this, I think it's a challenge for a lot of people to try to think about it, and you guys are right in the middle of that. Could you just take a minute on that?
Sure. Well, we've been doing that for years, and the state's been doing that for years. And Christine Hurley's here; she can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but the state has spent already about $240 million over the years buying land here. That we know that just doesn't make sense to develop, and we just have limitations. We have the limitations, so we're going to continue to do that. And now the state, like Cliff said, is starting to recognize this kind of thing. So there's some of the money that's flowing down from the state, and it just makes sense. Some areas, and it's that word that nobody likes to use, but we're going to have to use it more and more. That's retreat. We're going to have to retreat from some areas, and that's going to be costly. You have to buy those lands out if it's property rights, and it's going to be very expensive. So we're glad that the state is helping us out on it.
Thank you. Virginia, the region is well positioned to make city and county resilience investments to ensure the continuing fiscal health. It wasn't too long ago that our fiscal health wasn't in the best of shape everywhere, and I think maybe we're back from that down point. But how do we keep ourselves resilient for that next downturn, which inevitably will come?
As some of the speakers have already stated or pointing out the fact that we are in a position where we actually experience severe weather here in our various counties in this region. And so we've got that experience that what we have does not work. So as we move forward with renewal and replacement, building new facilities, et cetera, we must build to that resiliency level. We've got a number of our counties have dedicated funding sources, and I think Jack is absolutely correct. We've also begun that in Palm Beach County, where when the budget comes in for infrastructure replacement or new infrastructure, our resiliency office is looking at it. We're trying to determine, are we building to the level we should be building or replacing as we move forward with our capital programs. We're formalizing our use of sea level projections and other long-term climate considerations so that when the budget comes in, if it's not meeting that level of requirement, you go back to the drawing board and it's not necessarily put in the 5-year program being recommended to the board at that point. We also utilize our Office of Resiliency across our departmental teams so that they can again educate those individuals, and so they then better know how to submit their budgets in that particular case. In addition, the rating agencies are also looking at not only your fiscal health, but they're looking at your resiliency health. And if it's not combined, then you may not get the best rating that there is. Now, I have to boast about my staff and direction, policy setting of my board. They have been on board, and our most recent revenue bond rating came out, and we got glowing praises for our Office of Resiliency and the steps that we're taking in Palm Beach County regarding capital improvements and moving forward with our program. So that definitely helped us maintain our AAA bond rating. We're also looking forward, and this is one of the reasons that I actually hired Megan, because she had experience in looking at our affordable workforce housing and actually working with our development community to ensure that as we're building new development or remodeling or renovating existing structures, that we're also building and renovating to the level of resiliency. And so that is going to be a key factor as we continue to move forward and putting out RFPs or NOFAs regarding building affordable housing, that we're building it in an efficient manner so that it helps the users within those units be able to afford to move forward. Because we all know that the weather will continue to it's gonna get hotter and hotter, and we're in South Florida. And so, you're gonna run air conditionings. How do you operate our homes efficiently so that you can remain in there? So I think we're all poised in South Florida, in our region, to address this issue, and we are addressing the issue. The business community, as Bertha stated earlier, have definitely been involved. Our 3 communities are working together on the business level as well as the public sector in ensuring that we're facing this. I don't think we as government have a choice. We've got to address the issue.
Bertha is a big region, a very diverse region, 6+ million people, great variety, diversity. There's clearly a great income disparity. And, we have got to address everybody in this region. The equitable approach that Steve talked about is so key to what we do as we go forward. We hear about things like climate gentrification and other issues. So how do we instill that value in our work as we move forward?
So we understand that we're only as good as the weakest link. And we know that if you're not looking at your entire community, when you are developing your 5-year plans, your 10-year plans, your 20-year plans, your 50-year plans, if you're not looking at your entire community, you're going to miss the mark. I am very fortunate. I give 100% of the credit to my elected leadership. I have, as a board, when we talk about what we've been able to accomplish, as a region, when we talk about what we've been able to accomplish as a county, I am fortunate in that a lot of the push is coming from my board. Yes, you have staff, bubbling up and they're trying to push, but I'm gonna tell you I get the greatest push from my elected leadership, and I can't say that everybody can say that. So I consider myself very fortunate in that it is not a very difficult task when we're developing the budget each year to make sure that equity is at the front. We have recently been dubbed the Collaboration County by the Robert Woods Johnson Foundation. We were one of 5 communities that received their Culture Health Award. It's a national award. Most of the other communities were very small. We were the largest. And they were just amazed that, well, they saw our application, they didn't believe it. Now, this is, they're pumping up their application to win this award. But one of the things that they do, they actually come in and they test and they validate and they verify everything that you put in that application. So when they came, they brought their team here and they were able to go into the poorest area of our community and see that the public, that the community, the neighborhood residents were actually engaged in a dialogue about health, about resiliency. Yes, they're talking about gardens, they're talking about how do we fortify our homes, things that you just would not have imagined, coming grassroots up. But we were able to do that, and we're able to deliver for the community because that's a priority of my board. I think that ultimately, when you are looking at these issues and you're trying to determine whether or not the issue, as you're solving your problems, and you want to make sure that gentrification, people, there will be those of us that will know how to go on the website and look at that map and find out where the high grounds are, and this is where we're gonna buy our next home. We're gonna know exactly where not to go and buy, or where to buy. But there are a lot of people that don't know the system, don't understand it, so they wouldn't be able to do that, and they won't be as knowledgeable. Except now we're educating them, we're telling them that they should be paying attention to this, and that we should, as a government, that we should be able to help in making sure that when we're looking at our county and the needs of our county, that we're looking at it in its totality, because if we don't, we'll miss the mark. I also think that when you have partnerships that involve the community, where they're actually at the table, they see things that we don't see. We have our blinders on, and it's just that we don't see it. It's not that it hasn't been there. It's just that our brains are not trained to see it. So when you're getting that feedback from the ground up, and a lot of that is coming from our elected officials, they're talking to their elected officials who then are able to communicate that with us. We have a much better and clearer vision of where we are and where we need to go. So I think involving everybody in the dialogue, involving everybody in what the potential solutions are, is essential, because if you don't, you will miss the mark.
Thank you, Bertha. Jack, I think because of the context of the collaboration that goes on between the counties, 2 or 3 years ago in our county, we were able to create a partnership with the city of Miami and the city of Miami Beach, and I think Susie and Jane, my fellow CROs from there, are in the house, I hope. Susie and Jane, So, three jurisdictions did the unnatural act of trying to work together on a one single resilience strategy. So, from your observation, how does that link up with the work we've been doing as a four-county compact?
You know, to kind of start again where I left off this morning. This was a set of issues that were not the traditional things that try to get cities to work together. Transportation wasn't the issue, and housing wasn't the issue, and jobs weren't the issue, and this was a natural set of occurrences that were gonna have basically the same effect on an area from up in Broward all the way down through the Keys. And so our job was to figure out simultaneously how we operated from 60,000 feet and from 400 feet, and how all that was gonna work together. I didn't know how it was gonna go, you know. The county, Miami-Dade County, it has a history of looking at everybody and saying, well, by the way, we're Miami-Dade County. So you'll need to kind of look at what we're doing and get stuff done. Because, you know, do I need to tell you again that we're Miami-Dade County? Not coming from that world for a long time, it was hard for me to get used to that. But what we were trying to do was figure out how we took the three most exposed, if you will, jurisdictions and learn from how they're going to work together to the, I don't know, skillions of other jurisdictions that existed in the county. And it was an important thing that we learned how to work together without the usual difficulties between cities and counties. And how we would develop the schemes that would allow us to go out and knock on doors and say, listen, the three counties are working together on this issue and we'd like you to join. You know, it worked. I was so impressed, and this was because of people like Merle, who have had years of experience. I'll tell you how many years later if you like. Years of experience working at the governmental level on issues. You know, this issue was a new issue for us, and in many ways that probably let us get together better. We weren't fighting about transportation that we've been fighting about since 1920. We were fighting about how we were going to deal with something that was relatively new to us. That worked out really well. And so, you know, I was so proud of the way the three cities worked together. All of that stuff that goes on between cities and counties, I know you've never had that problem. But all that stuff kind of went away, and we dealt directly with the issues, not with the politics. And it was fun to watch the elected officials who were part of that. We would go to a meeting that the three counties put together for, you know, an issue with jurisdiction. And my elected officials would come, in the city of Miami and Miami Beach would come. And they were standing there talking to each other on issues that their staff had talked about to deal with the issue of the day, whatever it was, in the resiliency issue of that day. So I was very proud of that. I was proud of all the jurisdictions, but I was really mostly amazed with the way that these people, the three county staffs and their staff leaderships, put together what needed to be so that we could cross over from that usual stuff and spend time working at that. And I was really proud of that. And, you know, I hate to say nice things about Merle, but he did fabulous stuff.
You're not. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have time for some questions. These are busy folks. They're here to be part of this summit and to hear anything that we might have missed before I give them any chance to close out. Some questions? The mics are here. Early morning question? Susan. Please identify yourself for the panel and go ahead.
I'm Susan Glickman. I'm the Florida Director of Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, and I've been working on climate and energy issues for about 20 years. So one of the things that's been fascinating most recently is to hear about and learn about the cost the county, for instance, $20 billion in your 5-year capital plan in Miami-Dade County around resilience. So given these enormous costs that local governments are seeing, and the fact that we know that from the fossil fuel companies' own documentation that they've known for many, many decades the harm that their products cause, do you think that they should bear some responsibility in these costs, or should the taxpayers pick up and foot the bill?
Oh, that's an easy one.
We're always looking.
I told you I have more
I think they should, they have a responsibility, and they should, be part of the solution. But if we waited for that to happen, nothing would happen. So what happens is, rising tide floats all boats. So as we start to become more, thoughtful about this issue and aggressive about this issue, all of a sudden, they're getting on. I was watching, a program the other night, and they were talking about how a lot of the folk in the businesses in the automotive, arena, they have decided, for the most part, that they're not gonna roll back anymore, because they know sooner or later, we will be back on this. It's expensive to do that. It's expensive to go back and forth and back and forth. So if you're on an incline, you need to stay on that incline. And things get cheaper when the more proficient you are at it, the better you become. As Roman said, it started out, it was 30%. And I think I hit it when it was 30%, because I have a metal roof that I have probably going on 7 years now. But look, the costs are coming down, and the business community will see an opportunity to capitalize on that. So I don't think we wait. I think we just, yes, they should, but I don't think we wait. I think we keep the pressure on and set the leadership role in making that change for our community.
I think that's absolutely exact. And I want to use some experiences that we've had trying to work with FP&L. We've got some real significant sensitive issues in southeastern Miami-Dade County that were the result of a large nuclear power plant trying to deal with that. And it was so delightful, I guess is the word, to sit down with them and try to talk through how we were going to deal with the issues, the environmental issues, from a legal perspective, and a financial issue to deal with the changing nature of their customers and our customers. The beginning of the discussion of what the legal issues, thank God for the Regional Planning Council. At the end of the day, the Regional Planning Council and the county were the last two people that were hanging on the leg of the FP&L people on some significant, very important environmental issues that we got worked out so far. It stayed that way. It was easy then to take the next step to talk about customers. And we're lucky to have a very smart, very capable guy to be in charge of the FP&L now. And he understands that we both have the same set of customers. They got the same set of needs. And we got to serve them our way, and he's got to serve them their way. And that's worked out pretty well. And we're trying to take that customer-based discussion with several groups, and I'm happy to tell you so far it works.
Well, I see here a former secretary, Mr. Thaddeus Cohen. Please, what's your question, sir?
Yeah, good to see you, Jim. For folks that are going to be new to the process, Southwest Florida, I'm now in Collier County. We're looking at Collier, Lee, Charlotte. We're late to the game. So what would you say to us as we try to pull ourselves together? We've got a draft of how we're thinking about a compact, thinking back that 10 years to where you are today. How do you create that momentum to bring folks who may still be hesitant to think about this process. We'll be that advice to be able to help us jumpstart that need to be able to tie ourselves to a lot of the activities that you all are doing currently.
I'll start. It has to come from the top. Your commissioners, your elected officials, they have to be on board. We were very fortunate here in Monroe County when we started talking about this. It was gonna be bad news. We were starting to show some maps, starting to show some flooding in some of the areas, and they didn't blink an eye. They said, okay, let's go, we gotta do this is reality. So that's the key, it starts at the top, because staff is all over it. I mean, especially the younger staff, they've been talking about this for many, many years, so you're not gonna have a problem there. In the community, that is, you're lucky because it's in the air now, the discussion is out there. When we started, we had to talk people into the conversation and bring them into the conversation. And there was still a lot of deniers. There's still a few deniers, but they're minimal at this point. And then you're also lucky because we're really seeing the effects of it, unfortunately. And these king tides and everything that's been going on the last few years. So I think you're gonna find it a little easier to get people's attention. And then you gotta surround yourself with people like Jennifer and Rhonda, and just these very talented people that put these things together and just are fantastic. And you know how to do that, you've done that all of your life, so that's what matters.
I think also added to that, or emphasizing even more, and that's bringing the policy decision makers along with the business community, the key players in the business community, because it's also affecting them. And so the better off we are working together, you'll move faster. I agree, the young people, especially in high school and the colleges, they're all over this. They want a better earth. They want us to protect what we have and stop destroying it. As a grandmother, I want a better earth left for my grandbaby and their kids. And so we all have got to work together in order for us to leave this place a better place. So I think just simply bringing the business community to the table with our elected officials will move it much faster. And we're always here to help. We're from the government, so we're
I see Ms. Kate Stein from the great city of Surfside now.
So 2 weeks. My question is about education. When we're talking about things like potentially spending a lot of money on some of these adaptation projects or difficult conversations about relocation, Roman, to your point, how or what are you all doing when it comes to getting residents on board and teaching them about why some of these difficult decisions are necessary?
Well, I can tell you that Rhonda and I were at Still Red Point a few weeks ago. That's an area of Key Largo that's been, has had water on the streets, I don't know, Rhonda, about 82 days or whatever.
Right.
Is it 90 days already? And, you gotta go talk to them. You got to go out there. You have to be present with them. Okay. And it's not easy conversations. There's tough conversations. These folks have been there for years. It's historically a low area, a flooding area, but it's so bad. It's just so bad. And the New York Times did an article on it. Miami Herald did an article on it, if you've seen it. And it's what I call courageous communication. You have to sit down and say, this is happening, and we're gonna try to fix it if it makes sense. That's the real tough conversation. We're not there yet in this particular area, because we are gonna do an analysis to see what makes sense, if it makes sense. Most likely, it'll meet the cost-benefit analysis, but some areas are not. But you have to tackle it. Courageous communication. I mean, staff, it's tired of hearing me say that, but it is what it is. And because people understand, when you lay out the facts and you make them part of the conversation, they understand, they get it, They're not, people aren't dumb, people are smart. So.
Yes, I'm here to represent about business community.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for how you're all working together and clearly your staffs. It really has moved the needle and helped close the gap. The former gentleman talked about collective government, and what seems to be really missing is the federal level and the billions and billions and billions of collective dollars it's going to take to make everything work, right? So even with the South Florida Central Regional Flood Control and trying to work with the Army Corps of Engineers, then that's just one example, but it's a critical example. seems like the Army Corps is just trying to move the needle in the right direction just to get the study done, is not working. So my question to you all is, how do you collectively work together, including with the business community, to move the needle really in DC? Obviously, it's moving to a degree in the state, but not enough yet. But that's my question, how do you get the feds to the table to see how serious this is and really get this done?
Another easy question.
They were like,
Hot potato. This is probably an area where the private sector can have much more of an influence, because, you know, as a government official, I check the campaigns. But when you have an enlightened business community, and we say all the time, we need you to help educate our delegation on these issues. And when you have the ability to write checks at the level many of our business community members can, it starts to have some influence. What's going on in Washington right now, this too will change. I'm gonna be an optimist. It's not gonna stay this way all the time. I think that there are a lot of people in this country, they're looking at what is happening around the world, and they're saying, we are better than this, and we are going to force a change to keep us where we need to be, where as a country, where we want to be. We want to be at the forefront of these things. We don't want to start regressing. And you're finally hearing it. So I do think that the business community can help in that regard. As I said, when you start to decide who you want to support in the electoral process, this should be it should be at the top of the list. What are you gonna do? And then hold their feet to the fire in the way that they vote to make sure that they're actually doing what they said they are going to do in order to get your compensation.
We have a question over here.
Hi, my name is Mary Mertz, and I'm here today as chair of the Environmental Issues Group for the White League of Palm Beach County, League of Women Voters in Palm Beach County. And I've listened to many of you, and I'm so heartened to see so many businesses freely adopting eco-friendly practices and recognizing the significance of the problem that we have. And we've kind of circled around community involvement. We're helping inform residents of the need to buy their properties or what have you. And I see that community groups can play a much larger role. And as chair of our group, I would love to see us be able to collaborate more with government in helping you make that, make that information available to many of us. We have a listserv of over, we have the largest, Palm Beach County is the second largest League of Women Voters chapter in the whole country. The 1,200 people on our listserv. So we can make a difference in advocating for legislation in front of our legislature for the adoption of eco-friendly practices and resiliency and sustainability. So we'd love to be able to help. My question is, do you see us being able to do that? And if you do, in what capacity, or what would that look like?
I can quickly attest to the fact that when Broward County has made a major bond initiative, so whether it was the expansion of our library system or our park system, the League of Women Voters were right there, and they don't just, just pass out their list, they actually work. So I give you all credit, and I do think that there are ways that we can help, and I think we should be at the table to talk about what's the best way for that to occur, because you know your members better than we do. But helping to get the word out, and the fact that your members work would be, it should be an opportunity for us to really advance the initiative.
Mary, I have to give our Palm Beach County League of Women Voters major kudos. Prior to becoming the county administrator, working as a deputy county administrator, as well as the county administrator, I have worked hand in hand with League of Women Voters on various issues, and you are one of our biggest advocates. We provide the education to you, you either vote to support it, and 99.9% of the time you voted to support it. Our sales tax, you were very helpful with. Our census, you're right in there with us, you're on a complete count committee. So, yes, absolutely, we've worked with you and collaborated with you in the past, we will continue to do so. And this is an issue that we will definitely work with.
So we're here for you and all you.
I will be calling.
And we know the work you're doing and the struggle that it is, and we are in the